Hello, welcome to Pilates by Physiotherapy. In this video, I'm hoping to explain a little bit more about the principles of Pilates so that hopefully you can all maximize the benefit that you're gaining from the exercises. For me, Pilates is all about improving your quality of movement. We're looking to switch off those muscles that are working too hard and recruit those muscles that have become a bit lazy. The brain is a very clever thing and it will pick the easiest route to achieve what we've asked it to do. We all know that our body responds to how we treat it. So what we're trying to do with Pilates is improve the efficiency of our movement and the coordination of our movement. One of the great pleasures I get from Pilates is knowing that there's something in it for everybody. The huge number of people we have coming to the studio is a real testament to the fact that Pilates can bring benefit to people in lots of different ways of life. It gives me great pleasure to spend time with people in their 80s who see Pilates as really helping them improve their balance and strength, to working with people who are doing crazy marathons and triathlons and 24-hour cycling and lots of swimming, to the huge majority of us who are just fitting Pilates into our ordinary lives. It's great that all of you see the benefit of Pilates. Seeing your determination and your disappointment when you see that one side of your body doesn't work as well as the other, and how determined you become to change that, and the pleasure that most of you gain when you see, yes, things are improving. So it's that feedback over the last 8 years that has really encouraged me to continue with the Pilates. And I hope these online sessions are helping to maintain that. So to begin, the first principle I'd like to talk about is concentration. And that is really important because I'm really looking for you to feel how you move and where you move from when you're doing the exercises. It takes a lot to get to know your body and get to realize, I'm moving from my hip or am I moving from my back? And it's only when you get to know that that you can change it and improve the efficiency of your movement. The second principle is centering. That's a bit more controversial in the world of physiotherapy, but I do believe from working with you all over the past 8 years that centering does help you connect your brain to your low back. The visualization of that pelvis moving seems to help you fire up those muscles and recruit muscles that you may not have recruited for a long time. It's important to understand with Pilates that the brain develops a pattern of movement over time, and like any habit, it's quite hard to break. When we think about patterns of movement, in broad terms, we think about the muscles that move us and the muscles that support us. And the muscles that support the spine and the pelvis are the core muscles. I remembered luckily to bring my spine down from the studio. So the core muscles, as we understand them at the moment, are our pelvic floor, the lower abdominal transabs, the diaphragm, and little back muscles that go from one vertebra to the other. And we understand from the research that that group of muscles works together to pull the spine and the pelvis and support the spine and the pelvis, while other muscles then come in and do the moving. So in Pilates, we're really focusing on those deep core muscles, that deep cylinder that's supporting our spine and our pelvis. And to get to those muscles as best we can, we try to put you into this neutral spine, which we talk about quite a lot in the videos. When we're younger, our spine has a nice inward curve down at the bottom, the lordosis. You can flatten your lordosis, you can increase your lordosis. We want you in Pilates in the middle. So you can think about that as I tilt my pelvis forward, I tilt my pelvis back, and I come back to the middle. And that middle is our neutral. So we can set that middle lying on the mat, and we think about flattening the back down onto the mat, arching the back away from the mat, and bring it back to the middle. And you still have a little gap between your spine and the mat. And that is important. Don't worry if you feel you're struggling with that. The main thing that is important is you shouldn't feel stress and strain in that low back when you're doing the exercises. So if you feel your back is strained, your back is arching, that exercise is too hard, and come back to the lower level. We don't really want your back flat either. So to maximize the exercises, we're looking to be in that mid position. Well done. The next important principle to think about is precision. You'll hear in the videos we use quite a lot of very precise instructions. For example, weight bearing through the heel, across the ball of the foot from the big toe to the little toe. And that is important to improve the quality of our movement. Thinking about the quality of the position we are in, and that sends good information up to the brain. And like any machine, the better the information that you put in is, the better the information it will push out. Therefore, the brain will fire up the more efficient movement pattern. We're being very precise when we think about the balloon floating you taller. Again, if you can say that to yourself when you're standing in the supermarket or you're standing at the kitchen sink, your brain will recognize that information and think, yes, I know what to switch on when I hear those words, and it will fire up your core muscles, those deeper abdominals, giving you better support. The other precision we tend to go for as well is that lining up the knee over the second toe. In that, we are really working the small muscles of the hip to try and make sure they hold the hip in a more efficient position. So again, remembering those words and using those words to improve our quality of movement. Another thing to think about is breathing. Since we've started doing the videos, I have tried to put a little bit more emphasis on the breathing to try and help people relax and do the exercises at a more slow rate. In class, I'm not always one to encourage the breathing quite so accurately. But with the breathing in Pilates, you're looking to get the air down into the bottom of the lungs so the side of the ribs move away from each other. We're trying to keep away from breathing at the top of the ribs and the top of the lungs. We're trying to get that air down deep into the lungs. The general principle is that you breathe in to prepare to do the movement. You breathe out as you produce the movement. You might then breathe in to hold and breathe out to bring the limb back. So don't worry again too much about that, but it's something to think about, particularly in these times of stress when you tend to go into Pilates and maybe working a little bit fast. So you might find it does help slow you down and enjoy a more relaxing exercise session. Another thing to think about while you're doing the exercises is number of repetitions. I was really pleased when we went to the APPI conference at the end of last year that the APPI founder, Glenn Withers, was encouraging us not to use repetitions in the sessions, but to allow people time to feel what they're doing and have rests, rather than pushing on thinking, I've got to do another 3. You don't want to be all tense in your upper back and neck, thinking 4 more, keep going. We're looking for quality of movement, remember, and really focusing on our core. So you're always trying to keep the shoulders and the upper back and the upper body relaxed. So you stop and you start again. The final principle that I want to talk about is probably one of the most difficult to understand, but those of you that have been doing Pilates for quite a long time have hopefully got a good grasp of it. Those of you that are come to Pilates more recently will find it a little bit more difficult. But what you're thinking about with isolation is moving just probably one part of the body. So for example, in the hip twist, when we're taking the hip out to the side, we're looking for just the movement in the ball and the socket and the hip. We're not looking to take that knee out as far as we can by twisting the whole pelvis and spine and the whole lot working together. We're looking to isolate the movement so the pelvis and the spine stay still, so you're controlling the movement and the movement is isolated to the hip. So Pilates is about quality of movement, thinking how far can I get my hip without my pelvis and my spine moving, rather than thinking I've got to get my hip out as far as I can. Another important one that we talk about with isolation is separating the ribs from the pelvis. So when I'm asking you to set your center and you flatten your back down and you arch it away, you don't arch the whole spine if you can help it. You're trying to keep the ribs still and you just arch the low back. You just roll the pelvis. And that's where, if you think about your tailbone rolling away from you rather than arching the whole back. That, if you can manage that, that's great. And we talk about keeping the ribs down so we don't flare the ribs. So in sitting, what I mean there is that when you flatten your back down, when you arch your pelvis away, we're not arching the whole back. That mid back, we don't want that to happen. That's arching. We bring it back to the middle. What we're looking for is that mid back stays still and just the pelvis is on the move. So again, that really depends on your level of experience. If you're new to Pilates, you might find yourself flattening down, arching away and coming back to the middle. That's fine. But with more experience, you should be able to start to think, I'm keeping my rib cage still and I'm going to tip my pelvis back, tilt it forward, bring it back to the middle, and the ribs are staying still. So we're keeping our ribs down rather than flaring them. If you can get your head around that, you're just making the absolute most of the exercises. I hope you found this session useful. For those of you that have been coming to the studio for quite a long time, it's really just a reminder to keep your exercises accurate and remember the main aims of Pilates. For those of you that have joined us more recently, hopefully it will help you make sense of a lot of the prompts we talk about in the videos and maximise the benefit of the exercises. As I've mentioned already, the main thing is you don't want to be feeling stress and tension in your low back when you're doing the exercises. So don't be tempted to go increase the levels until you feel really comfortable with what you're doing. So now you've had a nice sit and listen for 15 minutes. You can roll out your mat, make some space and enjoy your next session. See you soon. Bye.